This can't be fixed. Worthless. Junk. Oh well. Time for some modding. Okay, Mongoose Jake here with a somewhat of a quick mod guide, and I'm also going to show you what you can expect to get by doing these mods for the X Shot Reflex 6. Now I'm going to show both the previous generation here in the yellow, as well as the current generation in the white and blue color scheme. You can apply these same mods to the bug attack version you see up here, and the reason why I'm showcasing the older version is that its internals are more closely related to the current bug attack. Now, what do I mean by more closely related? I'm specifically talking about the plunger tubes and plunger rods. The newer Reflex 6 has a much larger plunger tube, as you can note here. Especially if I turn it around the exact same way, you'll note much more length with the same diameter. Of course, length plus diameter equals volume, or length times diameter equals volume, and more volume means more power. So whatever mods you do to this generation of Reflex 6, or by default the bug attack pistol, will also create more performance gains if done to the current generation of Reflex pistol. So we're going to showcase both of them, and I'm going to do two different spring editions, as well as the typical air restrictor removal, dart post removal, and I've already done it, but I went ahead and improved the seal on this. As you can see, I was just simply testing it. But we're going to do all those, and I'm going to show you the results on the chronograph. Now, what I am going to do with the previous generation is just, I'm going to walk you through it just by talking, because the mod is already completed, I've already tested it, and it's a pretty solid performer. Now, the Reflex is a very, very simple pistol. The previous generation even had a split shell to where you did not have to take off the grip. So all you need to do actually is to remove your cylinder, clip out the dart posts, which I do that with side cutters, and don't damage the cylinder in any way, shape, or form. This mod's not going to be including brass, although I have been working on some brass breeches over here. I have those ready to be installed, but we're not going to do that in this. That would, of course, improve the air seal for the dart and further improve the performance. But that would require you to do 6 barrels, and for now I'm just going to leave that for a future mod. I'm actually going to do that on a Busby Zenith. I think that pistol has even more potential. But what you need to do is keep track of this small spring right here. This helps to seat the plunger tube against the cylinder. So if you lose this, be ready to replace it with something else. I actually do upgrade those on systems like this that have a floating plunger tube, which is what this is. It floats back and forth a little bit to allow the cylinder to rotate. Keep track of it, or be ready to replace it and upgrade it. Go ahead and pull your plunger tube out. Take your plunger rod out. One nice thing about X Shot Reflex pistols is they have a bolted on plunger head. So you have 2 Phillips head screws there. Remove those, and you can then pop off the plunger head, and it does actually remove this way. And you have a stock spring here, which is a very large diameter, very similar diameter to previous Nerf N-Strike series blasters. That's the old generation before the elites. Like for instance, let me grab one here, something like this barrel brake. Those are about the same size spring. About. Not exact, but it's close. However, what I recommend is not to do that. Don't even remove this spring. Take a strong arm spring. I used a 4.5 kilogram one from NF Strike. I'll get the package here and bring it up. There you go. Let the camera focus in on it. I used a 4.5 kilogram spring from NF Strike. Now, it is a fit underneath. You'll have to work it over the tabs here. Don't cut those. Those are reinforcing tabs. Do not cut those. They help give the plunger head a little something to rest against. don't cut them off. Just work the strong arm spring on. Now you will have to trim a little bit of the strong arm spring off and then re-square it. Let me move this over here. I had to cut off a small amount. Let's see if I already got rid of it, I do believe. But I had to cut off about 3/4 of an inch is what it amounted to. Now 3/4 of an inch, and then you re-square it, which of course re-squaring a spring is this right here. Give it a flat surface to rest on. That is all I had to do. And I re-nested it, put both in here, and that is what this is running on. And it's a firm prime. Let me go ahead and grab an X Shot here. And we're going to do a quick spoiler. Oh, it didn't even read. It is a firm prime. Just I'll warn you ahead of time. Let's get a different dart with the lighting as it is. It's not wanting to read that. Let's try a green one. Okay, I got 100.5. Okay, there's a spoiler for you. And that's on a 4.5 kilogram spring. But we're going to actually go through the steps and do the mods to the new version. Okay, couple tools you're going to need. Of course, you need a screwdriver to remove the screws, to pull your shell apart. I used a small thin screwdriver to actually put my E-tape down underneath. And we're going to need needle nose, which I have right over here, to pop out the air restrictor. X Shot air restrictors are not hard to remove. I just depress this down. There's a cross member here. Grab that out. And then you can reach inside and start ripping out the parts from the back. And basically you're just gutting it. And it's actually very, very quick and easy. Once you have all that gutted, get a hold of, let me try to get a hold of that spring, the air restrictor spring. There we go. Got the spring out. And then work it. I honestly just ripped the air restrictor straight out the front. And take care not to damage this. This is actually a very nice seal. It'd be hard to replace, so don't damage that if you can at all possible avoid it. But then I just kind of clean it up, make sure I get all the garbage out. Right here. Just clean up the post, rip them out. It's very easy work. That's why I'm showing you in real time. This video might go a little long. I hope it doesn't bother anybody because we're just going to go with it. But make sure that's all cleaned out. And that part's done. I've already nested the spring. And on this one, I used a slightly different spring. I'm going to go for a little more power on this version. I have a 5 kilogram Alpha Hawk spring. I'll put a link to both of those springs in the description below. Either will work. I'm going to attempt, because of the longer plunger tube and longer draw on the new version, I'm going to attempt, and you'll see it, I'm going to attempt to run this at full length. The stock spring, which is the larger spring here, the shinier one, is the same length as the Alpha Hawk spring. And that's what's giving me a little bit of hope that I might be able to do it. And we're going to nest them, so it's going to be a good amount of power there. Now, what we have to do is that the new version, unfortunately, only has one screw holding it in, holding the plunger head on, but it does have a separate post there that the plunger head does hook onto. So it does have two posts that it braces against. One's a solid post with no screw, and the other one is a screw. Now, because of the lack of the screw, actually, there might be a little more strength there because, you know, there's more material in the post itself. So we're going to go with that, and I'm going to grab my Orange ModWorks lubricant over here. Right here. I use the Orange ModWorks grease. It has proven itself to work quite well for me, so I have no complaints. Worker has a little bin that they send sometimes that is also good. It's a little bit lighter. And it's also a good lubricant to use. But we'll apply just enough to coat the O-ring. I'm not looking to add too much, just Too much lubricant will create drag. Drag in the system will reduce performance. So you don't want that. You don't want that to happen either. That actually is working nicely there. We're going to leave that aside as well. So I'm going to be modding that one as well. So that one, I'll do this one off screen. I ripped out the air restrictor on the other one as an example. We're going to go ahead and rip the air restrictor out of this one as well. So you get to see it twice. Go from the back, rip and tug. I'm not going to mod both pistols here. The old version I had torn apart plus this new one. I'm not going to mod both of them on screen, but we are going to see the finished result of the new one. So I have one old one already modded. And these are actually quite nice pistols to work with. I kind of wish X Shot would get a bigger name for themselves in the community, because I do quite enjoy their product, especially working with them in modding. They're very user friendly. Actually, to be honest, if you were going to go in and mod for the first time ever, I do believe this would be one of the ones I recommend. Now, I'm going to pause here for just a second, because there's one important step that I'm not going to make you wait on. I'm going to use my typical hot glue technique. I'm going to pad the plunger tube, or pad the plunger head with it, and it also helps remove dead space. I'm going to clean this up, hot glue it, and then I'll come back to you here in just a second. Okay, I went ahead and got it all put back together, and the good news is that 5 kilogram Alpha Hawk spring catches without a single problem. Good thing is because, and I was going to say a part of that is because X Shot uses a Busby style catch in these. They don't use a Nerf style catch. By that I mean the Busby style catch comes up from the bottom and catches onto a hook. Nerf style catches, of course, are the whole piece that slides up over the priming rod, and it relies on a separate spring to catch it, whereas the Busby design is much, much sturdier. And X Shot has kind of copied Busby in that. But with the nested springs, the stock spring, and the 5 kilogram Alpha Hawk spring that I use for NF Strike, the thing hits hard. I haven't chronoed it yet, but shooting into my dart net, it actually tore the net off of the frame. So let's get some actual figures here. I have a kind of random variety of darts. We got a Nerf AccuStrike, an X Shot, let's see, these rotate this way. So I have a AccuStrike, genuine AccuStrike, a Nerf Elite, a Adventure Force dart, that's the actual Dart Zone one. I have Busby Precise Pro, I have a AccuStrike copy, and then I have one of X Shot's own darts. So let's try the AccuStrike. Okay, that's an error. Okay, actually, it counter rotates. Okay, here's an X Shot. 143 feet per second. Here comes a AccuStrike copy. That one did not fire well. Must have been nicked. It only read in the 70s. There's 110.7. Here comes the Dart Zone dart. That's not right. It read 277. That's not right at all. It didn't read. Okay, let's prime it. Let's throw that Nerf Elite, which this should be the worst rated dart here. I know it didn't hit 492.4. Let's try again. 108.6. So this is about 110 foot per second pistol, and this one was shooting just a little under at around high 90s to 100 even, and that's what you could expect out of this. I have a 4.5 kilogram spring in this nested with the stock. I have a 5 kilogram spring nested with the stock spring in this new generation or current generation Reflex, and looking at about 95 to 100 feet per second and about 110. So that's with a random mix of darts. So very good performance for not hardly any expense. These springs cost a little more than the standard 7 kilogram spring, I guess because they're a lower demand, but I'll put links to those springs in the description. That's a strong arm spring here in this 4.5 kilogram. That's a Alpha Hawk spring at 5 kilograms in the newer one. That is a direct drop in. I did not have to cut and re-square it at all. The strong arm spring I did have to cut and re-square on the old generation, which, keep in mind what you've seen and what I've said on this one would apply if you have one of the Bug Attack pistols, because they use the smaller plunger tube, plunger rod, and all that set up from the previous generation of Reflex pistol. But that's why I wanted to showcase this here. That's why I wanted to include the older generation, is because you would have to follow the steps for this one to be able to modify your Bug Attack pistol. But the current generation Reflex, if you haven't purchased any of these and you're looking to buy a pistol that's easy to modify and it's going to have good performance, definitely a contender. That is a drop-in spring with minimal standard mods of improving the air seal with E-tape underneath the O-ring. I only did a couple wraps and that was good enough. I removed all the dart posts down in there. Let's see if we can focus in on it. But yeah, the cylinder's cleaned out. I made sure to smooth that out and file it down to where there's no hang-ups there. And then of course I just removed the air restrictors. I did lubricate the cylinder rotation mechanism, and that's about it. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward mod to get a pistol shooting at around 110 feet per second. And we'll go through a full second round here just for the heck of it, because I just like doing it. And just to show as well, let's make sure that we're getting consistent performance out of that. And it does catch very nicely. Catches actually more reliably than the older generation. Here goes a dart zone dart. That's reading quite high. Here comes a FVJ. Strike copy. Got a couple of very high readings. One was reading 151 and one read 143. There's no way. That one said 311. There's 108.9. And that one hit the chronograph. Let's try that Precise Pro again. The white darts were having a little trouble. 154 is what it's saying. We'll throw in a couple more just to end out this video with some firing, because hey, we mod these blasters to shoot them. 105.3 on a Nerf Elite, 129.9 on a Nerf Elite. It either loves the dart zone darts or these are errors due to that kind of lime green color. 106.7. Okay, so just under 110, and the Precise Pros were hitting 120 something. But again, hey, easy mod, good power, something you could do if you're a beginner, just looking for a sidearm, and you don't want to sink a whole bunch of money, because I'm buying these things for $8 at my local Dollar General. And you'll be able to tell that if you thrift them by, it says Dolgen at the bottom. And those X Shot Reflex 6 are fantastic pistols, even stock. For me personally, they fall second to only the Hammer Shot for fire rate, or the Busby Zenith for full-on power. With, if I'm going to run a pistol round, the Zenith would take it personally because it has a pump action. But as a holsterable sidearm, that's kind of hard to beat, to get reliably around 110 feet per second. And I haven't even brassed this yet. I mean, I've been working on some brass here. If I were to drill that out with a 17/32 bit and then slide 6 of these in, I think we'd see another 20 feet per second out of that at least. But hey, this is Mongoose Jake with my X Shot Reflex 6 mod guide, featuring both the old generation and the current generation. And of course, again, I mentioned the older generation and showed what I did with it and what spring I used, because that's what you would do for the Bug Attack series. But again, this is Mongoose Jake. I hope this was informative, helpful, and entertaining. Thank you for watching.